because it has been one step forward, two steps back, and maybe a little shuffle to the side tonight. Let's go through it, Caro. I know you're all over this. I want your comments right off the top. But first up tonight, senior West Australian officials have told Footy Classified that it is more than likely that they will get the tick, that they will be able to have full contact training on May 25th, which is the big news. So Western Australia, who seem to be the recalcitrant state as far as football getting going, looks like it's moving forward. So that's good news for Fremantle and the West Coast Eagles. They will be able to train at full pelt right up to the start of the season. But just when we thought that was good news for everybody, news comes through tonight, an extraordinary leaked document from the South Australian government, signed at the bottom by Grant Stevens, State Coordinator, Commissioner of Police, and Professor Nicola Spurrier, Chief Public Health Officer, Department of Health and Wellbeing, have blown up, basically, the South Australian team's chances of playing from home or even training from home in the build-up to the season. Remember at the moment that the AFL is looking to get the season away on June 11, Thursday night. Here's what the letter says. This means that on entering South Australia, this is AFL players and staff, would be required to quarantine for 14 days without leaving the property at which they are quarantining. That means South Australian players could not come back unless they go into a 14-day hard quarantine situation, untenable in an AFL situation. In addition to a modification or exemption being considered an unnecessary public health risk in South Australia, the committee noted that as a highly visible part of society, it is also important that the AFL model the behaviours expected from the general public or the public in general. That is clearly, Caroline, we'll get you in a moment for your comments, a whack at what happened in the Barossa Valley. This is another key point. The committee also agreed that the restrictions on training for sport in South Australia should apply equally to the AFL. In South Australia, at step 1 until 8th of June, 3 days before the hopeful start of the AFL season, it would allow only non-contact training in groups of up to 10. Discuss.
Well, both Port Adelaide and the Crows are shocked by this news. As recently as about 4 hours ago, both clubs felt that the Chief Medical Officer would work back in lockstep with the Premier, who has come out and been almost not critical of his Chief Health Officer, but they're in disagreement, Ed. This means hubs are back on the agenda, not only for the West Coast clubs who will, unless something changes dramatically in the next 2 weeks, they will be going up to Queensland to play in hubs. Certainly West Coast have said they want to go up to South Queensland, ditto Fremantle. I think if Adelaide and Port Adelaide have had their way, they would like to go to Queensland too. But I think the AFL is now returning to the hub model. They're looking at the Olympic Park precinct, where they were looking at setting up a hub. They're looking at RACV complexes in Victoria. And I'm not sure that the football world is looking all that kindly on the Adelaide Crows right at this moment. I just want to draw you to one more document. This is what The Age has found out about, and there's a story in The Age tonight. On Monday, there was a meeting of the Australian Health Protection Principle, the AHPP, that new acronym we're all learning. They don't understand quarantine, is what the health chiefs felt after the whole Barossa Valley exercise. Now, not only was the exercise potentially dangerous and risky and breaking of protocols, but the AFL didn't really take it all that seriously, in my view. I know that they were furious last week and talking tough, but in the end, there was virtually no punishment at all.
So is this blown back because of the lack of punishment? Do you think that's been significant?
I think it's both the crime in that, well, not a crime, but a crime against the rules that we're all meant to be living under, and then, of course, the AFL's pushback. The other interesting thing is that Jim McDermott, who is a Crows board member, is actually on that COVID transition committee of South Australia. In fact, he's the chairman. He's had to step aside for conflict of interest. So you've got the police deputy commissioner, and you've got another Adelaide board member having a conflict of interest, and these people have been unable to have any influence over the health officer, who is, as you say, has thrown the season on its head.
Ross, I've got to ask you, not being able to have full contact training on your best day until 3 or 4 days before the season, it's untenable. They're going to have to move out 3 weeks in advance.
The text should be going out tonight. Pack your bags, lads. This is the price we pay. Anyone that thinks they did get off lightly, well, justice has been served now. So pack your bags. We're off to Victoria, off to the Gold Coast. we're going to have to be gone 3 weeks earlier than the Eagles and Fremantle to participate in the AFL season.
Tonight, it's coming out strongly that the West Coast Eagles want to go to the Gold Coast. And before we do that, though, let's put another graphic up, because this might be significant for a number of reasons, and that is the number of players from each of these teams who are Victorian-born. Adelaide Crow's got 25. Now, I don't think they're in a position much to argue, because they can live at mum and dad's place and save a fortune if they come to Melbourne and have a hub here, Caro. Port Adelaide have 18, Dockers have 16, Eagles have 14. Eagles have already put their hand up and said, right, Barley, we've got the Gold Coast.
And Freo are keen to go
Freo
there
are pretty
too.
keen as well.
So we're 29 days out from this June 11th. So Gillon McLaughlin, isn't it from now, or if he's not doing it now, tomorrow morning, he says, OK, this is what we're doing from this point on. Surely now he's got all this information from Western Australia, South Australia. He says, OK, guys, pick your state. Let's get this organised. Obviously, it's another lot more cost to the AFL again, isn't it, with four teams through hubs and all that. But if we're going to get this season going June 11th...
Well, do they forfeit picking their
control.
state? Adelaide,
Yeah,
you know what?
yeah.
You're going here.
Yep.
And this is when you're going, because you're in the way now of a national competition. That at some point, autocrat, this is what you're doing. I think they've almost lost the right for self-determination.
Is it on him, though, now? Is it on Gillon McLaughlin to take charge and say, this is what we're doing? Because if it drags on any longer, we're not playing in June.
And we all know what a great consultant Gillon is and a deal maker, but I suspect there will definitely be an announcement by Friday, maybe even tomorrow, probably Friday. Ed, did you think that the Adelaide punishment was a bit light?
Look, I was always concerned that if it wasn't seen to be strong enough, that there would be ramifications. And sometimes you've got to be seen to be doing the right thing in these situations as much as anything. And
you would have been pretty unimpressed by the story when you found out about it.
Well, we're all unimpressed because we were worried that something like this might happen. And as a result of it, this morning we're all worried about where West Australia are going. Now, it hasn't been fully announced, but the information from the highest sources in football in Western Australia is that that'll happen at some stage tonight. Now, if that happens, that's the best news we've had for ages, because you can't fly in or fly out to Western Australia, that means that the West Australian teams are going to have to relocate and go to a hub. So that was going to be really onerous if they had to get out of there to train as well. Suddenly, tonight, this leaked document, and by the way, there's some raised eyebrows about the leaking against the Premier and leaking a personal letter to Gil McLaughlin, Chief Executive Officer, Australian Football League. That's today on government letterhead in my hand on Channel 9 right now.